With an area of 9,200,000 square kilometers, the Sahara is the largest hot desert in the world and the third largest desert overall, smaller only than the deserts of Antarctica and the northern Arctic. What did scientists find in the Sahara Desert? Let's find out. Scientists reveal the Sahara Desert is not what we thought. The desert comprises much of North Africa, excluding the fertile region on the Mediterranean Sea coast, the Atlas Mountains of the Maghreb, and the Nile Valley in Egypt and Sudan. It stretches from the Red Sea in the east and the Mediterranean in the north to the Atlantic Ocean in the west, where the landscape gradually changes from desert to coastal plains. The enormous desert spans 10 countries: Algeria, Chad, Egypt, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, Niger, Sudan, and Tunisia, as well as the territory of Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony that was annexed by Morocco in 1975, though control of the region is disputed by the Indigenous Saharawi people, the BBC reported in 2021. The Sahara Desert has a variety of land features, but it is most famous for the sand dune fields that are often depicted in movies. The dunes can reach almost 600 feet, 183 meters, high, and they cover about 25% of the entire desert, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. Other topographical features include mountains, plateaus, sand and gravel-covered plains, salt flats, basins, and depressions. Kusi, an extinct volcano in Chad, is the highest point in the Sahara, reaching 11,204 feet, 3,415 meters, above sea level, and the Qattara Depression in northwestern Egypt is the Sahara's deepest point, at 436 feet, 133 meters below sea level. Despite the harsh, arid conditions of the Sahara, many plant and animal species call the region home. Approximately 500 plant species, 70 mammalian species, 90 avian species, 100 reptilian species, and numerous species of spiders, scorpions, and other small arthropods live in the Sahara, according to the World Wildlife Fund. The camel is one of the most iconic animals of the Sahara, though its ancestors originated in North America. Camels have domesticated about 3,000 years ago on the southeast Arabian Peninsula to be used for transportation in the desert, according to the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna. Camels, also known as the ships of the desert, are well adapted to the Sahara's hot, arid environment, according to the San Diego Zoo. The humps on a camel's back store fat, which can be used for energy and hydration in between meals. Researchers from the University of Copenhagen and NASA taught artificial intelligence about trees and had them take another look. It turns out there is lots of vegetation in Western Sahara, an estimated 1.8 billion trees and shrubs. We were very surprised to see that quite a few trees actually grow in the Sahara Desert because up until now, most people thought that virtually none existed, says lead author Martin Brandt of the university's Department of Geosciences and Natural Resource Management. We counted hundreds of millions of trees in the desert alone. Doing so wouldn't have been possible without this technology. Before we move on, let's find out, what did scientists find in the Sahara Desert? An enormous lake called Megachad in what is now the Sahara Desert took just a couple of hundred years to shrink to a fraction of its size, British scientists have found. Megachad was once the biggest freshwater lake on Earth, covering 139,000 sq miles, 360,000 skm, of Central Africa, and rapidly shrunk to a tiny fraction of its former size 1,000 years ago. The discovery sheds light on how the Amazon rainforest grows, because dust from the remains of the dried-up lake blows across the Atlantic to help fertilize the jungle. A reconstructed lake-level history for the ancient Lake Megachad, once the largest lake in Africa, suggests that a North African humid period, with increased precipitation in the Sahara region, ended abruptly around 5,000 years ago, and that the lake's Bab el Basin, now a large source of atmospheric dust, may not have dried out until around 1,000 years ago, the team wrote. But the researchers' discovery shows this fertilization could only have happened 1,000 years ago, leaving a riddle as to how the jungle received vital nutrients before then. The researchers found that the change took place in just a few hundred years, much more quickly than previously considered. All that remains is Lake Chad, which at 137 square miles, 355 square km, is still large but a fraction of its former scale. The lake, which crosses the borders of Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Cameroon, has been further reduced in size by humanity siphoning off fresh water from it. The researchers explained the significance of the finding. The dried-up remains of the lake are the biggest source of dust in the world, the Badale Depression. Fossils of small plesiosaurs, long-necked marine reptiles from the age of dinosaurs, have been found in a 100-million-year-old river system that is now Morocco's Sahara Desert. This discovery suggests some species of plesiosaur, traditionally thought to be sea creatures, may have lived in freshwater. Plesiosaurs, first found in 1823 by fossil hunter Mary Anning, were prehistoric reptiles with small heads, long necks, and 4 long flippers. They inspired reconstructions of the Loch Ness Monster, but unlike the monster of Lake Loch Ness, plesiosaurs were marine animals or were widely thought to be. Now, scientists from the universities of Portsmouth and Bath in the UK and Université Hassan, the second in Morocco, have reported small plesiosaurs from a Cretaceous-aged river in Africa. The fossils include bones and teeth from 3-meter-long adults and an arm bone from a 1.5-meter-long baby. They hint that these creatures routinely lived and fed in freshwater, alongside frogs, crocodiles, turtles, fish, and the huge aquatic dinosaur Spinosaurus. These fossils suggest the plesiosaurs were adapted to tolerate freshwater, possibly even spending their lives there, like today's river dolphins. The scientists say that implies the plesiosaurs were eating the same food, chipping their teeth on the armored fish that lived in the river. This hints they spent a lot of time in the river rather than being occasional visitors. While marine animals like whales and dolphins wander up rivers, either to feed or because they're lost, the number of plesiosaur fossils in the river suggests that's unlikely. A more likely possibility is that the plesiosaurs were able to tolerate fresh and salt water, like some whales, such as the beluga whale. It's even possible that the plesiosaurs were permanent residents of the river, like modern river dolphins. The plesiosaurs' small size would have let them hunt in shallow rivers, and the fossils show an incredibly rich fish fauna. Today, the Sahara has a dry, inhospitable desert climate. However, it alternates between the harsh desert and another extreme, a lush green oasis, every 20,000 years, according to a study published in 2019 in the journal Science Advances. The study's authors examined marine sediments containing dust deposits from the Sahara over the past 240,000 years. They found that the cycle between a dry and a green Sahara corresponded to the slight changes in the tilt of the Earth's axis, which also drives monsoon activity. When Earth's axis tilted the northern hemisphere just a single degree closer to the sun, it received more sunlight, which increased the monsoon rains and therefore supported a lush green landscape in the Sahara. The area of the Sahara Desert has grown nearly 10% since 1920, and the desert will likely continue to expand at a comparable rate until 2050, according to another study published in 2020 in the journal Scientific Reports. Although all deserts, including the Sahara, increase in the area during the dry season and decrease during the wet season, human-caused climate change, in conjunction with natural climate cycles, is causing the Sahara Desert to grow more and shrink less over time. Archaeologists have discovered the prehistoric cave and rock paintings and other archaeological remains that shed light on what life was like in the once green Sahara. Bits of pottery suggest that about 7,000 years ago, herders raised livestock and harvested plants in what now is an arid desert. So that's it. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts below if you liked this video. Remember to subscribe to see our next